Hey, what's up everyone? It's your girl Cherrell. I'm the host of Let's Talk the Show, and this ain't a podcast. I want to thank you guys for tuning in with me this Tuesday like you guys do every Tuesday. I'm super excited to have you guys. Make sure you guys are following me on all social media platforms at MissCarter_1X, or you can find me under my government name, Cherrell. Make sure you guys are also following Let's Talk the Show on every social media platform. You name it, we got it. Pinterest, TikTok, Twitch, Facebook. Obviously you guys are already on Instagram, and make sure you're also following us on YouTube. I want to thank you guys for being super patient while we logged on. As I've told you guys a million times before, sometimes it does not allow me to go live. All the other buttons do not work, but we have an amazing topic for you today. I cannot wait to talk about this. But before we jump into the episode, you guys know the ritual. You got to give us something that you're grateful for. You got to tell us something that you're grateful for. And I think that when you put out there what you're already grateful for, God already sends you extra, just for appreciating what he already gave you. So make sure you guys drop in the comment section something you're grateful for. Hey, I am grateful today. I was thinking about this earlier. That's how much I was thinking in advance. I'm grateful for what was I grateful for? I said I was gonna say I'm grateful for something. Not another day. I think I'm grateful for self-awareness. That's what I'm grateful for. Self-awareness, to know that I'm slacking, and to be like, I'm gonna do better next time. So I'm grateful for self-awareness, grateful for life. You gotta be grateful for life. That's man, what would we do without that? You ain't gonna be doing nothing. But whatever they say you're gonna do in heaven. But I know my attire looks pretty different today, guys. I didn't like my shirt today. So I got a jacket on. But we're gonna jump right into it. This episode is about raising black boys. Is it easier to raise black boys than it is to raise little black girls, or just boys in general versus girls? What do you guys think? I'll let somebody go ahead and drop in the comment section first. And don't forget, you guys are my co-hosts as well this week. So if you guys have an opinion and you like to share it on live, just hit that little plus sign and that little recorder, and I'll get you guys on live, and you can come share your opinion with all of our viewers. Let's see, I want to go ahead and bring up our, what's the name? Oh, not lied. Maybe I'm not. One second thought, I guess I'm not. And let's see. Oh, and you know what, before we get to dropping those in there, you guys make sure you go ahead and share this live. You can hit that little airplane arrow button down in the lower right corner. I know it's the lower right corner for me. Go ahead and hit that and share this live with people. Okay? You can share the live with people. We can get them on here and spread the word about this amazing show. Share the live with people, guys. Let's see here. So I sent it to a bunch of people. There you go. That's a new feature that I've just been learning about. But I'll go ahead and give you guys my opinion. I think that it takes the same amount of energy. I think it's equal. I think raising boys and raising girls are equal. I feel like people always say boys are easier because they feel like girls have a lot of emotional needs and boys don't. And that's why a lot of people think that it's easier to raise boys over girls. And they think that, boys are so... in my opinion, when I hear people say that boys are easier to raise than girls, it's because girls... it's typically for moms. And sometimes dad, but it's just because girls have more emotional needs. They feel that girls have a lot more clothes and stuff to dress. I kind of feel like a lot of it comes from women who don't have the best relationships with their moms that say that. But I'm really here to tell you that's bullshit. I think that it requires the same amount of energy to raise boys as it does to raise little girls. I want to tell you that. And I want to say that it takes the same amount of energy, because if you care about the black family and having a family, then you understand the roles that a man and a woman play in a family. You get what I'm saying? And so you should be putting as much energy into your son's emotional and physical and mental well-being as you should your daughter, because you are raising the head of the household. I'm not saying that, let me, I know some people be like, women is the head. I understand that women are the head of the household sometimes, but at the end of the day, when you get married, traditionally, the man is the head of the household. Not saying that he makes all the decisions and that women don't get a say so, but a man is there to lead his family, to provide for his family. And if I want to raise a phenomenal head of the household, I need to be caring about his mental, his physical, his emotional well-being like I'm doing my daughter. And I think that in different parts of a relationship at different times, a man and a woman have to support each other. Sometimes there are areas that your man just may not be the strongest in, and the woman is. And so he has to just support her in her role and her leadership at that time. And then there are other areas where a woman may not be as strong in that area, so she just has to support her man and be a support system to him in that area. So when I hear people say that raising boys are easier, I think that you're neglecting your son somehow. Somehow you're not feeding into his mental, and you're not feeding into his physical or his emotional well-being. And it's like, we need to raise the type of young men that we will want to date. I want to raise a young man who is equally emotionally stable in his mental, his physical, his emotional, all those. And so when you say that it's easier to raise your son than it is your daughter, because your daughter has so many more physical needs, you think, or emotional needs, that means that you're not really feeding into your son's emotional needs, because he's a boy and boys don't cry. I'm not raising a boy that doesn't cry, because a boy that can't cry is a man that can't communicate. And I've dealt with enough of those in my life that I don't want to raise one. You know what I'm saying? And I think that the whole point of becoming a parent is to parent better than your parents. And that has a lot to do with boys being equally as tough to raise as girls. They are not easier to raise. When you're raising the head of the household, when you're raising 1 in 4 young black boys will go into the system, I think that's the stat. When you're raising that level, someone of that level of significance, you need to be putting a lot of energy. They are not easier. Little boys are not easier to raise than girls. They are equally as tough to raise. They just have different areas of their life that may require effort. Okay, so maybe yes, boys, everybody knows boys don't have that many clothes. So no, he doesn't have that many clothes. So it's a little bit easier to dress him. You don't have to worry about that tug of war with your son like you may your daughter. But you also need to be reminding your son when he gets to a certain age, the different areas of sex, the physical, the emotional, the legal ramifications of sex. Like you need to be reminding your daughter. And I feel like sometimes I'm still hearing that and it bothers me. Let's talk about that. Sex. We teach our young boys, he can have any girl he wants. He can have sex with multiple women. That's okay. That's not okay. Because you're teaching your son to just go out here and give his body away, but you're raising your daughter to value her body. So how are we trying to raise women to care about sex and we're still raising boys that don't care about sex? So you mean to tell me that you're still raising the type of man that you don't want to encounter? And I'm not saying we're going to raise perfect angels, because God knows some children do steer away from the path that they've been raised on. That's just how it goes sometimes. But my thing is, you can combat that when you love your son the same way you love your daughter. I think that a lot of little boys are only loved physically. I think that our culture has a lot to do with, you want a physical, strong little boy, but you haven't invested in him mentally. You haven't invested in him emotionally. We're still pushing that stupid ass stereotype. You can't cry because you're a girl. Like, that's the stupidest shit. I'm sorry, you can't cry because you're a boy. Only girls cry. That's the stupidest shit I've ever seen in my life. Or heard in my life. I do not subscribe to that bullshit. My son can cry because crying is a human emotion. It's not a feminine emotion. It's not a girl emotion. It has nothing to do with that. We need to invest in our young black boys emotionally, physically, mentally. They are equally as tough to raise as young girls. When you are trying to raise the head of the household, the lead in the house, you need to be investing energy. Your children are your biggest investments. My son is my greatest investment. Okay? What I have taught him is going to last on this earth long after I'm gone. And I want to make sure that I am raising, not only am I raising a great son, I want to raise a great big brother eventually. I want to raise a great friend. I want to raise a great boyfriend, a great husband. I want to make sure I'm investing in him in all areas, not just physically because I care about what he looks like. I don't want no tough ass, dumb ass son. Okay? If he's good just across the board, I'm fine with that. We need to invest in our young boys because the fight to end systemic racism is not over. So we're fighting this fight now. In 20 years, our kids are going to be fighting that fight. I don't want to be raising a young man who's so physically tough that he's not mentally strong or capable enough to walk away from something, or who knows when to just be quiet, or who is not able to tell when his life's at danger or able to read his surroundings. I want to raise a young man that can pick up this fight when his mom is gone, because I will leave and he's going to be here. We need to be invested in our young boys the same way we invest in our young girls. Not just so they can look good. They need to think good. They need to be good emotionally. Stop telling your sons they can't cry. I want my son to be able to express his full range of emotions without shame, without fear of being judged by his peers. Okay? I want to raise a young man that when a young girl gets to him and says, your mama raised you right. Your mama raised you right. I don't need my son smacking women. I don't need my son not being able to express himself. I don't need my son out here having sex with multiple women to fill the void that I created in his life. I want to raise an emotionally healthy and physically stable young man. And that should be everybody's goal. I know that a lot of people, feel like men don't have to be the head of the household, and women can lead the house. Cool if you want to eliminate all the gender roles, whatever. I still believe in some traditional gender roles. And I think that the importance that my father played in my life and the way that he leads his household, it says a lot about how I want to instill some of those ideas into my son. And I think that when you have healthy, positive male figures in your life, you should look at those traits that they have, and you should try to instill some of them in your children, especially your sons. I understand that this society does not want our young black men to be successful. It doesn't want them to be educated. It does not want them to be leaders. And it does not want them, absolutely does not want them to be leaders in their house, in their community, and within themselves. The black body is already over policed. They use young black men bodies throughout sports. They don't get what they deserve out of sports. Black men, I don't care how much money you make, the system still rapes you somehow, some way. And they do a lot of that with our black men. They've already mass incarceration. I want to lead my son and raise him in a way that minimizes the risk that he'll go down those paths. I want to minimize the chance that my son meets a woman and she's like, who the fuck raised you? Because I look at some of the men I've dated like, who the fuck raised you? Like, how in the fuck did you get to this point? And we have to do a better job investing in our children. What do you guys think? I've been ranting because this was something that was on me. What do you guys think? Do you guys think that it's easier to raise young boys than it is? Do you guys think it's easier to raise boys than it is girls? Let's see. I see everybody joining here. What do you guys think? Is it the same? Is it harder? What do you guys think? Talk to me. Let's talk, fam. Is it easier to raise boys than it is to raise girls? I think that it's equally as tough to raise them. They just require different things in different areas. No, your son may not require so many clothes, but we still have to be mindful. No, it ain't easy to raise a motherfucking thing. No. No, it's not easy. It's not easy. You got to teach people how to survive. You do. And I think that somebody, I don't know what, I keep seeing, I'll say this. I see a meme that says, I wasn't raised by Instagram. I was raised by the OGs. And I want to tell you that if you're on Instagram or you don't need social media and you ain't learn shit, then you got to be one of the stupidest motherfuckers alive. And that's just on that. And I'll say that to say this. I saw a meme that says, when we say boys are easier to raise than girls, that means that we're just babysitting our sons. We're not really paying attention to them. And I was like, damn, that's the truth. Because a lot of the times our sons, people feel like they don't have to teach their sons anything. They got to invest all this energy into controlling their daughters and their bodies and over-policing them. But it's like you don't put that energy into making sure your son is going to be a good man, a healthy man, a happy man. I don't know. Parenting is hard at every level. Every single level. And is no easier or harder whether it's a boy or a girl. They just require different levels of energy at different times. What do you mean? You said wet. What do you mean? I know you meant what, but what do you mean by that? In this tricky ass world, you got to teach, survive. Parenting is hard to live in this tricky ass world. I don't have kids, but I do feel like it's the same, to be honest. But at the end of the day, it's all about what you teach your child. It's definitely about what you teach your child, and you need to be teaching your children the same things across the board, especially how it impacts them. And that's why I said sex was one of the biggest things. We teach our young boys that, oh, you can just have sex with whoever. You can have sex with multiple women. But it's like you're teaching your boys this, and then you're cramming pregnancy and condoms down your daughter's throat. Did you teach your son about condoms? Did you teach your son about the age of consent? How he needs to be mindful of the girls that he's sexually interacting with, and how a simple accusation of rape can ruin his life? Did you teach your daughter about those? You know, that's why I said there are mental, physical ramifications of sex, which is STDs, and illegal consequences of sex, which could be being charged with rape or something. Yeah, you were taught. Not many people are taught. Not many people are taught about that, and it's not enough to just teach them, oh, you can have sex, have a condom. No. Understand that when you're having sex with girls, I know it's corny. Kids think it's corny. It's going to be corny, but you need to be finding out how old people are when you're having sex with them. Why you can't have sex with people a certain age, regardless. Maybe all in the same grade or something. But we need to be teaching them about things across the board. You know what I'm saying? We need to be teaching them about, just about education. Even about education, how it's biased. Sex education is going to be biased. We need to be teaching them how the workplace is going to be biased to black men. How they may, I'm going to say this. Maybe your son is really good with interacting with people. And I would say this. I know very few male servers. Typically, they go the sexist route. They keep all the women in the front, keep all the men in the back. Bus boys are typically, you see a lot of bus boys that are boys. Some bus girls, not many, but typically they're really sexist when it comes. They want the girls out in front. You get more money with the girls. You buy more money. Girls can easily persuade you. But we need to even teach them about little biases in the workplace. They might want to keep you in the back. But son, if you really feel like you're going to be a great server and you got great communication skills and you love people, fight to be a server and get in the front and get your money. You never know. I've met so many amazing people working jobs. You never know who your son could meet if they just decide to not allow a company to push them to the back. Something that's super simple, but it's like, it's still something that we have to teach our sons, that they are important, that they are valued, that they are respected, and that they have a space in this world to say how they feel. It is not easier raising boys than it is girls. I do not want my daughter to be emotionally available and aware, and my son is completely out of touch with himself. What the fuck have I been doing as a parent then? That's ass backwards. And to me, when you say that, it's almost like you don't love your kids equally. I want my son to be able to cry and express himself the same way I want my daughter to. Nobody's emotions are more important than the other person. You guys are equal. You just have different strengths and weaknesses, obviously. And you guys are just, require different levels of energy at different times. But at the same time, you can teach a child, but it's all about if they're going to listen or not. Yeah, I think that's important. You know what? I say that. I do agree with you. And that's why it's important to understand children. I think black people have a big problem with understanding children. I hear so many times, you ain't gonna whip him, he need a whooping for this. And it's like I think that when you read and you do research on how children work and how their minds work, then you begin to understand how to actually communicate with a kid. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, when my son is gonna start hitting puberty, I'm gonna already be preparing for it. Like, okay, his hormones gonna be racing, he probably gonna be hard-headed. I'm gonna be preparing to figure out how to communicate with my son. A lot of people don't have an open line of communication with their children, which makes it extremely difficult. And then relationships become very tumultuous, and now it's toxic. And now your kid don't listen, and they acted out in school, and it's just hard to repair that. But it's like, if you sit down to figure out, okay, what really is going on in my child's body at this age? Okay, this is how it's happening. What can I do as a parent to adjust? Because I've never had a kid before. I've never had a 2-year-old. But eventually my son's going to be 5. The way he thinks, the way he processes information is going to change. So that I know when he's approaching that age, okay, Cherrell, we're going to hit some changes. I need to be prepared to address and communicate with my son a certain way that a 5-year-old mind is going to be able to understand. I know it's going to be frustrating for me, but these are the changes that are necessary to make sure that I can keep an open line of communication with my child, and that I can make sure he feels comfortable to not only express himself, but to come to me with questions and concerns that he may have about whatever. And that's important. It's not enough to just teach your kids things that you think they're good. You need to listen to them. Children have a lot to fucking say if you just shut the fuck up. I can't tell you how many times my son has been banging to get my attention. I'm like, stop, just wait a second. And then I turn around and I'm like, oh shit, he was trying to get me to see this. It's also important to teach our children, but it's equally as important to listen to them. Children, minds are a beautiful thing. They are beautiful. No matter how bad you think your kid is, they have beautiful minds. The way they interpret things are amazing. They are little geniuses in like 2 feet bodies. Okay, they're amazing, super little geniuses, and we got to learn to listen to them as much as we want to instill great values in them and teach them. So my question to you is, do you think, let me see, I agree with that. I know, right? That was so fucking long-winded. I am sorry, guys. That shit was long as fuck. But I felt really compelled to share this. I just told my sister, we were out to dinner yesterday. I said, if I don't feel it, I don't want to talk about it. Which is why you guys usually don't get the topic of the day until the day of, because I gotta feel it. I gotta feel passionate about it to have a conversation, or I don't want to talk about it. I think a lot of youth don't understand because of parents continuing toxic traditions they got from their parents. Who they become is a reflection of their upbringing. Yes. Like, I'm gonna pin this comment. Let's see. Okay. That is a very great comment. And I want to say that I was just thinking to myself out loud. I was talking to myself earlier in the kitchen, and I said, if you think a child is acting inappropriately for their age, you got 3 places you need to check. You need to check where they live, what they watch, and where they go to school. Those are, I promise you, those are 3 places that you can get the answer to trying to figure out why a child is acting the way they're acting. Where are they staying? What is happening at home? Where are they hanging out at? You need to be figuring that out. What are they watching? Kids watch a plethora of things in such a short amount of time. I promise you. I've sat literally for an hour or 2 and watched my son all the different things he's watched. It's crazy how much stuff they consume, especially uninterrupted, right? So you need to be looking at where are they living? Okay, where they hanging out, where they living, what are they watching, and where do they go to school? What the hell are kids doing in class? Okay, what are they talking about at lunchtime? What are their friends talking about? Some kids walk to school. Who they walking to school with? What y'all talking about? What y'all talking about on the bus? It's so, what kids say and what they do has a lot to do with how they are raised. That's why I'm such a big, I just posted my son's, the way he responds when he's upset has a lot to do with how I respond to him when I'm upset. So, the first thing I was like, I need to check myself. Because I got mail one day and I threw something. I bushed it, The next day my son got upset and he threw some shit. I was like, oh, hell no. I ain't raising no kid that's going to be throwing shit. Literally, though, a lot of how people are, Josh, that is perfect. Has a lot to do with how they are raised. I promise you. You can find the answers to a lot of shit that kids do. Majority of kids, especially when they're under 5 before they're going to school, is definitely home or what they're watching. Once they get into school, it's home, what they're watching, home, school, and what they're watching. Those are top 3 answers. I agree with that. I definitely agree with that. Which is why I have hold on, let me see, guys. I'm sorry. Which is why I have a lot to say about little boys in rap music. This is another thing. I saw another video today that said we allow our little black boys to be rapping about killing one another, and ain't nobody said nothing. And it never dawned on me, like, a lot of these rappers are young rappers. Like, they be super young, 19. Granted, 19, you grown. But I know Dog didn't just start rapping about this in, like, the last year, you know? And I think it's kind of gotten scared to a scary point that we're allowing our children, especially kids that are in the industry, we're allowing our little black boys to be in these big rooms with execs, signing their life over, right? Making all this money, getting all this in exchange for what? We have to do a better job of raising our children to care about 3 areas of people in our life. And I'm, beginning to shift my life to align with this. And I think the 3 groups of people in our life that matter the most are God, our family, and our community. Those should be like your top 3 people in your life that matter. Your God, it ain't got to be Christian. God can be whatever God you believe in, okay? Your family. I don't have friends. I have family. Your life should, revolve around trying to improve your family, be as connected to your family and things like that. Build your own family in your community. Where you reside, where you spend your money, it's important to make sure that where you live is healthy, happy, and clean. And those are 3 areas of your life that you want healthy, happy, and clean. I want to be happy with the person that I worship, or with the God that I worship, and that I have a good relationship with that force. I want to be happy and healthy with my family. I want to make sure that I have a healthy and happy connection with my community. Those are 3 areas of our life that we should be making sure that we're nourishing on a day-to-day basis, just in general. But we are raising our young boys to think that it's okay to talk about killing each other. And it's like, where did we go wrong teaching them that to be a man, it does not mean you have to kill somebody. To be a man means to be strong, means to be wise. It means to be connected. It means to be a leader, and to not brag about, causing chaos in your community. And a lot of times, that's all they're doing. You're causing chaos in you got to go back here and lay your head there. And you mean to tell me you don't want them to look clean, you don't want them to look nice because that ain't the gangster thing? And it's like, not to be funny, but these new crackheads and these new drug dealers don't even got drugs. Like, they don't even fix nothing. Like, these new crackheads just crackheads. Like, the old crackheads was mechanics. The old crackheads used to pump your gas. Old crackheads cut your grass. Like, the old crackheads was smart. These just some young dumb niggas on drugs. Like, you're no good to me. Like, you're no good to me. Like, not saying, I feel like crackheads are an important part of the ecosystem in the ghetto. I do. They're very useful. But these new crackheads, they don't do nothing. They're not good for nothing. The drug dealer's not even good for nothing either. But we have to get our sons out of this idea that being a man is shooting a gun, rapping about killing your brothers, rapping about doing nothing for your community. Like, they don't, they're starting to talk about ownership. Shout out to Lil Baby for that, because he's starting to, preach ownership. But we just have to do a better job of steering our young men to what it's like to be a man. We need to, and I'll say this, as a single parent, I am super, focused on making sure that my son has positive role models in his life. Positive black male role models. I'll take accountability for choosing the child's father that I did choose, and we're not together. So I don't have an in-house father figure, but I do have the access to make sure that when my brothers are around, my son is around. I make sure that if I have great male friends around, that they're interconnected with my son. That I make sure I'm dating men that will resemble the type of man or have some of the traits that I want my son to have. And because I did not do the best that I could have done with choosing a father, that means I need to outsource these things. You hear what I'm saying? And that needs to be every single parent's goal, mother or father. If you do not, and especially for boys, especially for mothers, if you did not do the right job in making sure that your child's father was someone that he can look up to in a positive light, then that means you need to outsource those things. That means he needs to be mentored. He needs to be in some type of consistent interaction with positive male figures, specifically positive male black figures, because who better to teach you than somebody that look like you? What's so funny? I'm sorry, you guys. I told you I just be ranting. What do you guys think? Somebody's about some period, auntie. You guys are so funny. So I'm serious. I'm not gonna make this a long episode, but I really felt like this was deep within me. I was like, yo, we gonna talk about this shit. And I'm always just triggered when it comes to the boys because I have a little black boy, and I want him to be the best future big brother. I want him to be the best friend to his male friends and his female friends. I want him to be the best boyfriend, the best husband. I want someone to look at my son as a reflection of me, be like, yo, she raised dog right. She raised him right, and I'm proud to be his girlfriend because his mama just raised a good. I want to raise a good man. I do. I want to raise an intelligent man. I want to raise a leader. I want to raise a go-getter. I want to raise a man that can communicate how he feels. I want to raise a man that can communicate how he feels despite what he thinks, despite how he thinks he'll be judged. I want to raise a healthy young man, okay? Not just going to the doctor when you think some shit wrong. Going to the doctor because you need to be checked up every 6 months. Changing your toothbrush on time, okay? Okay, keeping yourself groomed. I want to raise a good man overall, and that's all I care about. That's all I care about. My son never make $1 million and he don't get no Grammy. And I want to raise a good man who served his community, his God, and his family. That's what I want to raise. I'm sorry, that's what I am going to raise. It's as simple as that, and I think that anybody with a child should want to raise a good person and instill good values in them and be a better child. And to do so, it does not mean that boys need to be whooped harder. They need to be punched in their chest. It does not mean boys need to be more disciplined than girls. And when I mean disciplined, more physically disciplined than girls. I heard people say it all the time. You won't have to let him know he gonna try you. And it's like, well, if I teach my son to have respect for women, and I have respect for my son, I don't know if I'm gonna have to go through all that. If I keep positive role models in his life, and make sure I outsource those to good guys, I don't know if I'm gonna have to go through that. I just feel as though those outdated ass traditions about beating my son ass because he a boy, he gonna test me. I don't know if I'm gonna have to go through all that, because I just feel like I should be able to. I feel like if I instill good communication with him and I love on him and I'm not harder on him because he's a boy, and I'm not harder on him physically because he's a boy and not tough on his emotional and caring about his emotion, I don't feel like I'm gonna have to go through that shit. We need to be pouring into our boys the same way we pour into our girls, and that's just that. They no one is more harder than the other to raise. They just require different things at different times. Puberty may be easy for your son, so maybe you don't gotta have so many conversations with dog about stuff. Maybe your daughter just required, but maybe when your son hit later in the teenage years, maybe he's a little more harder. He's a little more of a man. He got something he want to say. Maybe you have to do it then, and maybe your daughter is just a little bit easier going. People have highs and lows. And it's no different with your kids. And we got to make sure that we are consistently pouring healthy things into our sons like we do in our daughters. Children are people. They have different personalities. So obviously, one personality may clash more with you. But that does not mean... one personality may clash a little less with you. That does not mean that you have to love them or give them less attention. It just means that they may require less attention in certain areas and more attention in other areas. Get to know your children. Get to know them as people, not just as your kid and somebody you got to boss around. Because, again, you are raising somebody's husband or somebody's wife. Make sure you raise a good wife. Make sure you raise a good husband. And it's as simple as that. That's really it. I know it's so long-winded, but this was on my chest. When I saw this, I was like, yo, I'm going to talk about this tonight. You're doing the right thing. The most efficient thing to do is let him know he's loved first. He'll love himself. He'll love himself to respect himself. You and members of this community, the early years are extremely... Definitely. Early years are... And that's, that's so funny. That's why I really try to make sure that I know black people, really try to... We always want to be really strict on our kids. Like, I don't want my son acting like this in public. And it's like, I get that. I don't want my son embarrassing me either. But what is the true root of that embarrassment? Is it because I want to look like I'm out of control? Like, do I not want to look like I don't have control of my kids? Do I care more about looking like my kids are out of control? Or do I care more so just about letting my child be a kid? Like, he's a kid. Kids act crazy. I feel like God purposely designed kids to act crazy at the most inconvenient time. I feel like that's what he literally did just to test you. And it's like, I've just become accustomed to being like, you know what? If I let him do what he want to do, then I don't really have to worry about my own anxiety. I don't worry about having to kind of control my kid. Like, if I let him do what he want to do, he's going to be happy. I'm going to be straight. You got to pick your battles with your kids. And especially in the early years, you got you gotta let them be. You kind of gotta let them feel themselves out and do their own little thing. Obviously keep them safe and within a nice, box, but you gotta let them do their own thing. And you don't, you just gotta love on them. You gotta let them be. You gotta love on them, and they gonna figure it out. As long as you got good guidance, some wisdom, some people around you that can help you, let them do their thing. Like, they gonna be straight. My son's gonna be good. I'm gonna make sure he's good. But those early years are super informative, especially because kids interpret things really like wildly, which is why I'm a big, people know me, I will explain some shit to my son in a heartbeat. We be walking past stuff, he be pointing at people, I'm like, yeah, she got a blue wig on, or yeah, that's a red truck. Like, we gotta feed into our children early on. The things that your children are doing today is because of things that they've seen weeks ago, yesterday. So don't think that this just happened overnight. Sometimes it does. Like I said, my son threw some shit the next day after he saw me throw some shit. But point is, habits develop over time. Feed good habits. Feed healthy emotions. Feed healthy habits, good emotions, instill good morals, healthy morals into your children, and they will develop over time. And you will have a great individual. They ain't gonna be perfect, but they're gonna be great and good. You guys got any final thoughts before we head out? Yeah, I really had to get this off my chest because boys are not easier to raise than girls. They require the same amount of energy and raising and loving and discipline. They just may require it at different times. And that varies per child. So make sure you're feeding your young boys the same love and emotional support and mental support that you are your daughters. You gotta let them do that thing. I love that. You got to. I've learned that. I've learned to pick my battles. I never knew about. I remember my friend was saying she's married. She'll be married in September, and she was like, yeah. I'll just be like, you know what? I want to complain about this, but I just pick my battles wisely, and that's something I never understood that in any other area of life. I never understood that concept. As a mother, I understand picking my battles with my toddler. There's some shit I'm just not arguing with him about. There's some shit I'm just not stressing myself out about. Let him do it. He will be fine. The more you try to control them, the more they're just like crazy. So he'll be okay. I'm not going to stress myself out about shit like that. Learn to pick your battles. With your kids, learn to pick them. Save yourself the high blood pressure. Anything else? What do you guys have to say about being... I know I have some fellas in the comment section. Do you think that you were raised more harshly than your sisters? Or do you think that your emotional well-being was taken into consideration? I know I got some fellas in there. What do you guys think? I be dancing all the time. Do you guys think that you were raised? Ladies in the comment, do you think your brothers were treated physically more? Do you think they were treated or more physically disciplined than you? Or were you more physically disciplined than your brothers? Was I out of my siblings? I took like the bulk of ass whoopings. I got more whoopings than all my siblings. Like, I got enough ass whoopings for everybody. No cap. I probably, if I had to count how long I was probably on punishments, I probably got if I had all the time added up, I probably had 2-3 years of punishments. Like, if I had to add all the time up, I was always on punishment. But yeah, so whatever. What do you guys think? Fellas, were you more physically disciplined than your siblings, sisters? Were you less physically disciplined than your brothers? What do you guys think? Let's see. Instagram does play me sometimes when it comes to comments. Okay. Doing the right thing. You guys have some really great comments. I really love this. Make sure I spoke to everybody. Okay, you guys don't have any more comments? All right. Well, if you guys don't want to say anything, I don't want to be sitting here and looking at y'all. Y'all looking at me. I do want to say, I want to thank you guys for joining in this Tuesday. I appreciate you guys. Let's Talk fam. The show is really growing. I'm seeing a lot of progress with some things that I'm testing out. And I really want to thank you guys so much. The show would not be what it is without you, but I'm super grateful. And let's see, before I head out, I want to make sure you guys are following me on all social media platforms. You can find me at my government name, Cherrell Carter, or you can find me on social media platforms at MissCarter_1X. Make sure you're also following the show, Let's Talk the Show, on all social media platforms. You name it, we got it. Twitch, TikTok, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, you're already here. Make sure you also follow us and subscribe to our YouTube channel by clicking the link in our bio. And you guys know the ritual. I gotta go out the same way I came in. Something I am grateful for. I feel like I'm really growing and being more true to myself, and so I'm going to say I am grateful for that. I'm grateful for this growth into loving more Cherrell. I'll say that. And I think that's all I have for today for you guys. Thank you guys so much as usual. I'm super, super appreciative of you. But yeah, that's about it. My name is Cherrell Carter, you guys. I'm the host of Let's Talk the Show, and this ain't a podcast. I will see you guys next Tuesday.